Okay, so welcome everyone for this webinar session on the Economics of Development major for the MA in Development Studies program at ISS. With me today, we have Matthias Rieger. He is the course leader for the Economics of Development major, and also two current students, Arpan and Carmen. Arpan, you're from India. Carmen, I'm not sure. You're Spanish, Dutch. You have a Dutch last name, so I'm not so sure.
I'm half Dutch, half Argentinian.
There you go. So we have Carmen, who's half Dutch, half Argentinian here as well. They will also be providing their experience so far within the major at the later stage of this webinar session. But before that, I would like to pass on the floor to Matthias, who will be giving a brief presentation about this major. Without further ado, Matthias, please go ahead.
So, hi everyone, welcome to this session on the major Economics of Development. I'm excited to see you here, and I'm also happy that we have two excellent students here from the current batch or group of students that will also provide some information on this major. Now, as you can see, overall, the ISS MA in Development Studies is highly ranked. We're world famous in the Netherlands, #1, and also ranking really well in the worldwide rankings. But I want to talk more specifically to you about the major in the Economics of Development, which would be your academic home within the larger Development Studies program. And it's a very special major in the sense that we want to provide you with very sound theoretical knowledge in the field of development economics, always keeping in mind, of course, the policy relevance of what we teach, and also give you analytical techniques to tackle many of the issues that developing countries are facing these days. So that's kind of our main aim, and that's what we're also very passionate about in all our teaching. Now, what are some questions that we look at, some of the big questions in this major? Well, we want to see, why are there such large income differences across countries, and how are these changing over time? How might they be linked to international trade? Is trade always good or bad for economies? Why is corruption often so high in some countries? We also look at more issues that I'm interested in as an economist. What's the impact on health on the economy and vice versa? So I work a lot on health issues in developing countries. We also look at the link between conflict and economic development. We have some staff that that focuses on that. That's again a very relevant topic these days. And as you can see, there's a kind of a broad range of questions we ask in a major, but of course you're also coming with your questions, and that's what we really want to do in this major, learn from your experiences and try to answer your questions together with other students and of course with staff. What's the target group? Well, what we're looking for is, good academics with a very good undergraduate degree, and that want to, pursue the academic studies further at the MA level, and ultimately, either go into PhD programs or work for government or in development banking or NGOs, or of course also the private sector. And for all of these target groups, we have very good examples from previous years and batches. What are some kind of the broad themes in the major? Well, there's the macroeconomic side, that's more looking at countries and economic development at the country level. Then, of course, the more microeconomic side, that's, for instance, my expertise, looking more at individuals. And of course, countries and individuals are embedded in an overall global economic environment that we also have to take into account. That also includes institutions and regulatory frameworks, both at the global but also at the domestic level. And in all that we do, we always want to differentiate across different socioeconomic groups, because some groups are more vulnerable than others, for instance, and so forth. But as I said before, all of that is not meant to be a very theoretical major. We want to really look at, policies and how to inform policies, because if you later on work for ministries, you want to have a good sound theoretical but also analytical toolbox to tackle some of the questions that we're currently facing as a world. So just specifically what we want you to come out, if you do come, and I hope you do come, we want you to be familiar with contemporary debates. What are the hot topics at the moment? We want you to be able to apply relevant economic theories to these debates. Also, ISS is special in the sense we're embedded in a School of Development Studies, and we are very open to alternative schools of thinking and economic thought. So we're not going to only teach, and follow one school of thought, let's say the mainstream school of thought, but also take into account alternative schools of thinking. And then, something that's very close to my heart, I love data. I love working with data. We want to teach you how to make sense of economic data, how to interpret it, how to understand the limits of data and the pitfalls in some of the data that we're working with. And so all of this is kind of meant to be very hands-on when it comes especially to data and analytical techniques. And what we at the end of the day want to form is, thought leaders that are critical, policy leaders that are critical, and that's one of our own kind of main goals. So if you are joining us later in the year, you will be entering a 15.5-month journey, starting in the fall this year, and then ending with graduation December next year. You can see some nice photos from our graduation event, which is always a very lively and also touching moment in the program. We have a diverse set of staff here. I put my staff colleagues on the slide. We have Greek national Eliseos Papirakis. He works mainly on environmental economics. We have an Italian national, Lorenzo Pellegrini. He's also an expert on environmental issues, climate change, water issues. John C. Crosati works a lot on spatial economics, looking, for instance, at the spatial impacts of development aid in various countries around the world. You see a picture of myself when I was a little bit younger. I mainly work on health and microeconomics. Then we have Semsem Shigute. She's from Ethiopia. She works in the field of global health as well. Then we have an Indian national, Arjun Bedi. He works on labor economics, education economics. Then we have another staff member from Bangladesh. He's called Mansub Murshid. He's really a leading figure and intellectual when it comes to the economics of conflict and peace. Then finally, Peter van Bergijk, a Dutch professor. He works mainly on international trade and international finance. And we have another colleague, Robert Sparrow. He's mainly working on Indonesia, but also specializes in education economics, labor economics. He's a Dutch origin. And then finally, Binyam Afewerk Demena. He's an expert when it comes to more firm-level data, meta-analysis, and these kind of topics. So as you can see, a diverse set of colleagues that I have, and they all will integrate their research and policy advice experience into their teaching as well. All right, you can see on the website some topics we're working on. For instance, I've been working a lot on how nutrition changes with globalization. So how health changes as countries globalize here, for instance, in the case of Mexico. You can also look at our website and look up the staff profiles, and you see, for instance, Arjun Bedi, professor in our group and major. He works a lot on education and labor in developing countries. And here also Mansub, he's a leading expert in the field of conflict, and you can see some of the papers, for instance, on Google Scholar if you're interested. So as I said, it's a 15.5-month program. And so part of the program, you'll be taking courses with the other majors, and then more the second half of the major will be focusing more on the economics of development. And so you can kind of see the course structure. It starts off with some foundation courses, kind of laying the groundwork. So because you're entering a very interdisciplinary major, so if, for instance, you're an economist by training, you can also take some sociology courses or political science courses to give you a broader basis as a social scientist. There's a general course which all students take together from all majors, and that gives an introduction to development studies, essentially. Then in the second half of term 1, there's a major core course in the economics of development that's called Principles of Economic Development, giving you an introduction to micro and macro development economics. at the MA level. And at the same time, you will also start thinking about your research paper, your thesis, okay, which is really, to me, a little bit the heart of the whole program. In term 2, there are also there's also a second major course. There you have a choice between 2 courses, either a course on growth, inequality, and poverty, or a course that looks more at global economy, international financial reform. And as I said, also techniques are very important to us. So you'll also start to take some techniques courses. And if you're in ECD, that could be, in part some more qualitative courses, but you could also take more quantitative courses, including econometrics and regression analysis. And then in the later terms, in term 2 and 3, you also have, choice from a vast array of courses within the major, but also, with outside of the major. So you might also want to kind of, dabble in other fields such as sociology or anthropology, and that really kind of gives you a more complete intellectual training. And the final term, term 4, will be really focusing on your original thesis, and you'll be working closely with at least 2 staff members for that. When you come in, we provide some diagnostic tests to see that everyone is on the same level playing field. So if you have to catch up on, for instance, your quantitative skills or computer skills, there will be some remedials for that. Then, as I said, there are these foundation courses you can choose from different disciplines, so sociology, political science, economics, and statistics. And depending on your prior training, these might be more at the intermediate level or advanced level. Then there's this general course that I just mentioned. All students from all majors take it together, and it exposes you to very different theories and views of what development actually means. And I think that's particularly important for development economists to get also exposure to other ways of thinking. Then there's these research techniques courses. So you have to take these for 8 credits. That could be one course or 2 more specialized courses, smaller courses, and that it's going to be depending on your needs. For instance, what you want to do in your thesis, you're going to work with mixed methods or only with quantitative methods. You can take these techniques courses. Now, as I said, the ECD major is kind of your academic home in the overall program. It makes up for over half of all credits or the workload. There are 2 major courses that you have to take in the first term: Principles of Economic Development, and in the second term, either Growth, Inequality, and Poverty or International Trade and Investment Policies for Sustainable Development. In addition, there's your research paper, your thesis, and that makes up for 25 credits, and that should be on a topic of development economics. But that's a very kind of a broad umbrella, and we can fit in many topics in this typically and accommodate your interests. Why do you want to write a research paper? Well, because you want to apply some of the tools and techniques in ways of thinking in a dedicated paper. And, this is something where you should really work on something that's close to your heart, where you have strong interests in. It's about 15,000 words, and it should show some methodological rigor. It should, pose a clear question, and then with that methodological rigor, also provide some kind of answer to that question, okay? Most of our students in ECD, in Economics of Development, work empirically, but sometimes we also have students that work more theoretically. Some students work with existing data, secondary data, macroeconomic data. Other students collect their own data, do field work, and we also have a small fieldwork fund that's available to some students to fund that. Okay. Here on the slide, you can see the diversity of topics and that we've had in the recent years. So some students have worked on teacher discrimination. Others have worked on taxes in Brazil. There's been some work on the oil industry in the Amazon. We've looked at financial stability in emerging countries and so forth. So really a wide array of topics, and often very interdisciplinary and mixed in the kinds of approaches. And there's also a possibility to specialize further. So you are doing the MA in Development Studies, you're doing the major in the Economics of Development, and if you want, it's optional. You can also get a specialization in the economic analysis of development policies. So that means that you'll be very well equipped when it comes to quantitative techniques, econometrics, impact evaluation. And that's, by the way, something that's very valued later on the labor market. And I think that sets us apart a little bit from the other majors, that we have that relatively strong quantitative focus. And this is a skill that's really sought after, as far as I can tell. If you want to have more information, there are some important documents on the website, and Darren is also happy to share these. There's the MA academic calendar, the student charter that tells you all about the rules and so forth. And for ECD, more specifically, check out our website. You see a little bit about our philosophy, what our staff members are working on. And you also can find the academic calendar on the website, where you can see the structure of the program, the types of optional courses you might be able to take. If you do have any questions now or in the future, feel free to drop me an email. Here's my email address, rieger@iss.nl, and I'm happy to answer your questions from the academic side. From more the logistical side, how to arrive here, how to get the visa, and so sorted out, it's better to contact the admissions office. And that was my short presentation. I just want to say that we also always try to do a study trip during the program. So in the past, often we went to Dublin. Last year, we went to Cologne and Maastricht. And this year, we're planning to go to Rome. And actually, Arpan and Carmen can maybe also talk a little bit about this, what they're planning to do. But that was from my side, and I'm looking forward to your questions. And I'm also looking forward to discussing with Carmen and Arpan on the call to get their insights on the major. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Maybe Carmen and Arpan, you can take turns. Maybe Carmen first. Maybe you can explain about your background a little bit prior to coming to ISS. Why did you choose ISS? How is your experience so far at ISS and in the major? Carmen, you can go first.
All right. So hi, everyone. I'm glad that you're all here in this call. My name is Carmen, as Darren has introduced us, and half Dutch, half Argentinian, and part of the ECD major. So I guess the reason that I chose to come here to ISS, of course, the rankings and all of these things help a lot. But I also think the location, The Hague, is fantastic. You get lots of opportunities here in terms of internships and just a general international kind of community that there is here. And also a lot of organizations that are related to development that can help a lot. In addition, I think ISS is very diverse. I think you can tell already from the website and everything. If you come here, you'll see that in person, which I think is a great added value. And it also provides you the opportunity to, of course, you can do economics, but you also have the opportunity to talk to people who are looking at development from different perspectives. Yeah. And that's really great as well. And if you come here to ISS, which I hope you do, I highly encourage that you talk to people from other majors as well to get a more holistic perspective on what is development, what it means. And yeah. A little bit about myself and my background. I actually come from a private sector background. I've worked for a software company in marketing for a couple of years and have a degree in business administration, which is not really something that you would expect here at ISS. But I find that it's a nice link. So if you come from the private sector, I think that's very valued in this, not only in this major, but in general in development. And you'll find that a lot of things apply in many cases from the private sector to here. And it's something that is very missed sometimes. So definitely encourage you, if you don't come from a particularly development related area, you're still very much welcome to participate here, and yeah, your opinions are very valued.
Of course. Thanks, Carmen. Before Arpan, I just wanted to say about the background of Carmen, even though she comes from a different background other than social sciences. So it used to be a prerequisite to join ISS if you want to study. So your social sciences background is a prerequisite, but nowadays it has changed a little bit. It really depends on the course leader as well, and your motivation letter, your background. Basically your motivation letter have to be very strong, and it has to link to the major that you have chosen as well. So if all goes okay, and if the course leader, which is Matthias here, says okay, then you will be accepted to ISS. So it's no longer a very strong requirement, the social sciences, but it will be better if you have one. Yeah, just wanted to say that. Arpan, you can follow up.
Sure. Thank you so much. But yeah, I think like before I start off about myself, I think what Darren said is really relevant because we need more people within the development sector. And I think ISS embodies that really well. About myself, I am from New Delhi. I studied economics in my undergrad, and I initially worked in the grassroots, and I worked as a teacher, post which I worked in policy analysis for a bit. And yeah, I'm here now in The Hague. But why ISS? Actually, it was really late in the application process that I decided to come here, but it was, and I don't think Matthias remembers this, but it was like a lot of annoying emails to him, and me asking him, okay, you're a development studies institute, are you just going to focus on qualitative aspects of it? And if you focus on quantitative analysis, how you're going to integrate those two? What does that look like? And for me, those two things look very separate. But when I came to ISS, I slowly started realizing that even though there are very, let's say, like very new and far left perceptions of development, such as post-growth, circular economy, and so on and so forth within ISS as research themes, but they're also very well integrated into development economics and the way people perceive development economics. So that was a big plus for me because I've always seen them as two different roads. And that's one. And why I chose the Netherlands was obviously because I felt that culturally, it has always been a very accepting country. And in terms of, and also in terms of development related organizations, we have a lot of development banks, we have a lot of not-for-profits in the Netherlands. And what I've also noticed is that government agencies, municipalities, really frequently post openings to take up practicants, internships, you can visit them, you can speak to them. And it's really, really accessible, in my opinion. And that's what sold me.
Yes, thank you so much, Arpan and Carmen, for your introduction and also explaining a little bit about your background. Well, we have one question, and then I have a few questions. So let's probably deal with the first question from the student about the computer skill. What does the pre-test mean? Maybe this is something, Matthias, you can say something about it, and then maybe the students can also contribute a little bit on that.
Yeah, we're not looking to test if you're IT expert. It's really just basic computer skills, including Word, Excel, perhaps. And but actually, maybe Carmen or Arpan can say if they took the test and what it implied.
Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah, it's basically a language test, mathematics test, and an IT Excel skills test. And the three of them were relatively simple. Especially if you're coming to the ECD major, I doubted that anybody had any issues with that. Yeah.
So language test means English, not Dutch. So
no,
worry.
of course.
So that's just to, because it's just to refresh your mind, because some students may not have studied for a long time. So this is just to refresh your mind on, okay, a little bit of Excel, a little bit of English, and a little bit of statistics and things like that.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy or anything like that, let's say. I have a question that maybe it's for the students. Can you explain a little bit to the viewers about the environment of the class, the type of assignments that you receive, exams, and so on? Carmen, you can go first, perhaps.
Sure, or if you have something to say.
Or whoever can go first.
Okay, I'll go. Nature of examinations and classroom culture. I think our classes are fairly small because our major itself is quite small. It's around 20-25 students, including the exchange students or the double degree program that we have with Vietnam and with Indonesia. That's around 25 students in total. But other than that, I think classrooms are very collaborative, and it's not didactic and one way. It's very much an involved classroom. And for example, the international trade course is completely flipped. We come into class, we present our own papers, we critically analyze them and have discussions on them. So there are cases wherein the class is completely flipped and it's not even any form, there's no form of traditional teaching involved. So that experience is really different, right? But in speaking about examinations and assignments, I think it varies with the type of course that you have. Yeah. For example, for me, written tests are a little bit intense because I need to sit, I need to revise, go through my notes, and it's a little bit anxiety inducing for me. But assignments, I would say, and even like to some degree, some of the questions in the exams, they're really focused on critical thinking and you analyzing and evaluating certain real world problems. So for example, in our first major course, our midterm assignment as well as our final exam asked us to come up with a development program and come up with a strategy to evaluate it. And that's a big chunk of your assessment. So that sort of examination and testing is something that is really common at ISS, and it's heavily empirically rooted and really like they really hone down on you applying your knowledge and not just parroting what is in textbooks and readings.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, especially now in term 2 and term 3, many of the assignments are designed to prepare you for the RP. So that's really great. And we're already writing our own papers, really small ones, but it's a step towards the research paper. So yeah, I think the examinations or the assessments are well designed in that sense.
Thanks so much, Carmen and Arpan. Another question that I have is the importance of econometrics. How important is it for you to know or have knowledge of econometrics if you're interested in the ECD program? I don't know if Matthias, you are probably the one who's accepting students. So can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, so typically when I review applications, I do look for some quantitative training, some, statistics classes, some mathematics classes. So typically when I do admit you, and then I think that you would be doing well in the ECD major. And then, of course, within the ECD major, you can go, some people go and take all of the econometrics and advanced classes, and others, go a more mixed route or more, qualitative route. So there's that possibility, and it depends on your interest. But once you're admitted, I think you have, in principles, enough quantitative skills to get through the program. And, as I said earlier, sometimes, we don't like the quantitative skills because it can be a little bit painful. It's like a vaccination. But once you get all the support from us to get through it, and you will not regret it later on. And as I said, it's highly valued also on the job market. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Matthias. About the study trips, Matthias did touch a little bit. Actually, the last slide was about study trip. Carmen and Arpan, have you already decided where you will go this year and when, and why did you choose to go X country and X organizations?
Yeah, can I take this?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
He's the class representative, so he knows all these things.
So I'm the class rep, so I was pretty much involved in deciding like where to go, how we're going, and so on and so forth. But we had a few options, but we chose Rome because it's a beautiful city, first of all. And second, we're going to be visiting the FAO, which is the Food and Agricultural Organization. And Zemzem, who's one of the professors here, really recommended the organization because they wanted to have a few sessions with us in terms of regarding impact evaluation, what is the status of food security and insecurity across the world, and what's the status of agricultural produce, and if there is any agricultural insecurities across the world. So that's one big reason why we chose Rome, and we'll be going in July. So I mean, it's an academic thing, but it's also a time for us to because since our first term, we've been really scattered as a course, as a major. So it also gives us time to bond, get together again, spend some time together. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Arpan. Is this heavily subsidized? The student have to pay a lot for the trip, or is it subsidized? Or...
So I think ISS has a clear-cut budget for it. They pay for accommodation and flights. And so I would say, yeah, it's subsidized, but like students often try to explore more. They try to go to other cities and travel more. So yeah, they can do that on their own, but yeah, ISS does subsidize the entire trip.
Okay, very good. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to ask one last question, and then we can call the webinar a day. Internship. How important is internship? And are you, Arpan and Carmen, planning to do or have done an internship before? Yeah. Maybe before Carmen and Arpan answers, Matthias, maybe you can explain a little bit more about if internship is needed or not at ISS.
We encourage that, and it's a good idea. Of course, for me as academic program leader, your academic progress is number one, and then if your time and your progress allows, you can complement with an internship, and there's lots of opportunities here, and you can also choose the timing quite well. We've had students do internships at some of the Dutch finance institutions, at Philips in the private sector, at different NGOs that work in The Hague. So there's lots of opportunities, and so we definitely encourage it. I believe Arpan, I'm not sure about Carmen, but Arpan is going to do an internship. Do you want to say a few things about that, where that is?
Sure. I'm actually interning at the FMO, which is also called the Dutch Entrepreneurial and Development Bank. It's like, I would think of it as the World Bank, but scaled down a little bit. So I'm working as a data quality and analytics intern there. And it was actually my first week. And honestly, if you're looking for internships here, I would definitely encourage it, because there's like a host of organizations that would be more than willing to have people who have this combination of economics, development, and coming from a highly reputed institution. And I would also say that our program is a little bit offbeat, because ISS used to be a purely development-related institution, like way back in the past. So I do think that there's some degree of preference there. Also, like Oxfam is right across the road, so you can network and speak to those people. And we have something called the Humanity Hub in The Hague, which is also, I wouldn't say it is an organization, but they have their own building, and different development organizations work out of there. So yeah, I think there are a lot of opportunities, and I would say get some experience in, and maybe you can also try to align your thesis with the kind of work that they do.
Yeah, thanks, Arpan. But just for everyone's knowledge, the internship is not a must. There is no credit point, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a must, it's not mandatory. And if you do choose to participate in an internship program in one of the companies, you will have to find it on your own. Although sometimes students or teachers may help you, but the onus is on you. So please bear that in mind. And also be careful with time management if you do an internship, because it can be very hectic. As you hear, Arpan only just started his internship, and now I believe it's term 3. So term 3 is a little bit less hectic, let's say. Right. So there is less subjects to take. So plan your time properly. Don't do it I strongly suggest not to do it in term 1 and term 2, but do it in term 3 or term 4. But term 3 is possibly the best time. Arpan, you want to say something?
Yeah, Darren, I just wanted to add to that. I would say not to intern in term 1. No. Definitely, because the program is, like I said, it's really offbeat and the pace is really fast from the get-go. We were starting out with 4 courses from August end or September till October end. And then you have Principles of Economics, which is the major course, along with a mandatory course, which is also quite fast-paced. So I would say term 2 is the time you take to settle in, understand where you're going. And once you have that direction, I would say start interning. And I was really impatient with this. And this is also something I emailed you and Matthias about before I came here, because I really wanted to intern and start working, but it's a good call to start working later in the program because you have things sorted.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Especially in term 4, for example, when you're just focusing on your RP, I think many students, including myself, I'm planning to look for an internship in that period of time.
Yeah, and just for everyone's knowledge, RP means research paper. Yes. So basically your thesis. So just to make that clear, we have a question about an internship. The Dutch language is not mandatory, so don't worry about it. English is enough, is sufficient. Some companies may ask for Dutch, but you still can apply and you can say that you're willing to learn, and chances are there is a slim chance, but there are chances that you may still be you still can work for the company for internship. So I wouldn't worry about Dutch language as something mandatory at all. I think there are no more questions, and I have no more questions. I think we can end the webinar. So, there is one last question. Oh, that's from you, Carl. Okay, so it's not a question, it's a statement. Okay. Okay, good. With that, I would like to conclude the webinar session for today for the Economics of Development major. Thank you so much, Matthias, for taking your, Matthias, Carmen, and Arpan for taking your time off from a busy schedule to join for this webinar. I know Arpan and Carmen had class just before the webinar session happened, so they rushed for it. So thanks so much for that, really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing all of you. I think we look forward to seeing all of you in September. So if there are any questions, you can send it to me first. So my email address, I will type it now, study@iss.nl. If you would like to communicate with Matthias or the 2 students, Carmen and Arpan, please send the email to me as well. So I can vet it first and I can forward it to them, and please give them some time as well to reply to your emails, because they may be busy with their assignments and so on. So with that, thank you so much, and see you in September. Have a nice day, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.